So we're coming up on Independence Day here in the United States. And I thought it'd be good to do like a fun episode. It's still going to be about real estate. We're just going to think a little bit outside of the box in this topic. And it's going to be kind of like fun, interesting facts about real estate. And I've gotten these from a number of sources. There's not even really any discernible pattern to the items I'm going to share with you today. But it's basically interesting and cool or unique ways that real estate has been manipulated or used. And that's kind of the best way I can feel to describe it. So let's get into it. So the first interesting real estate fact I have for you is in regards to retail bankruptcy. We've seen it in the past couple weeks. Some retail stores, chains that we're used to seeing in malls or just anywhere, have begun to file for bankruptcy as a result of the economic shutdown. JCPenney has filed at this point. J. Crew was one of the first to file as a result of the COVID economic shutdown. Now, real estate actually does come into play in these retail bankruptcies, and it's actually really interesting how it is used. If you aren't familiar with a retail bankruptcy, what happens is there's a court petition for the retailer to receive protection for bankruptcy. So, of course, just like a personal bankruptcy, it's sort of asking for protection from creditors and money that's due out there. If the company is choosing to reopen its doors or stay open, then the court appoints what's called a trustee. This trustee gets into everything involved in that retail business. So if the company is JCPenney, that trustee is getting into JCPenney's inner workings. It's looking over its structure, its finances, the employee status, how many employees they have, how much redundancy there might be with employees. There is no stone that is left unturned by what this trustee looks into. It's every single aspect of the business. The reason the trustee does that is because their position in this bankruptcy is to help the board of directors and the company come out from the bankruptcy with a positive direction. So they formulate a plan after they go through everything that's involved in how that retail organization operates. They come up with a plan on how they're going to go forward positively and what changes they are going to make that is going to create the positive outlook for the company. Now, this plan normally includes some sort of terms. So there's likely going to be a term in regards to the closure of stores, especially if there tends to be store redundancy, or if there are stores that are very poorly performing. JCPenney is a good example of this. So JCPenney is going to be forced to close like 10 of their stores that weren't even profitable. Like all the other stores were basically carrying these 10 stores on their back. So there will be contingencies like that in a bankruptcy agreement with the trustee and the plan that's presented to the judge. But an interesting fact about these plans, many of them, in fact, nearly all of them, include a stipulation that the businesses within X number of years will only occupy space that the retailer owns. So any space that they're going to operate this organization out of, the company has to own it, or a subsidiary company or a sister company, whatever it may be. But the retailer actually has to own that space. No more renting their spaces. Now, to us, this might seem rather insignificant when we first think about it. We're like, okay, that's interesting. But there's a really good reason for this. If you've ever tried to build a business, like whether it be a retail, like a boutique, or even a service industry, it actually is really hard to build a business when you don't own the building it occupies. Now, why is that? Well, it's because you don't have control over how much rent you're going to be paying. You don't have control over the terms of your lease. So it's really hard to actually build a successful business when you don't own the retail space it occupies. So in many of these agreements that are put forth to the judge, there is a real estate stipulation that they will own the real estate that they work out of. And in some cases, there's even like a separate plan for a sister company to hold additional real estate holdings that the company isn't even going to use for retail. And that's the power of real estate. The power of real estate is harnessed in retail bankruptcies, whether it be to reduce the burden on the retail organization or to actually give it some additional cash flow through owning real estate in other ways. So I thought it was really fascinating to see this. And I discussed this pattern with my dad, who consumes a lot of financial, business, retail news. And he said, yeah, this has been the practice for a long time, that for at least the past 15 years, a lot of the retailers that come out of bankruptcy, they end up owning the real estate that they operate out of, or they end up holding real estate separately. So if you have a chain that really only works in a mall, they might not own their space in the mall, but they will own other real estate in a different company, like a sister company, that helps with the passive income and helps the cash flow for that industry. Because there are going to be some businesses that don't really work outside of a mall. Like, I'm having trouble thinking of some right now, but normally we see things like Macy's and Sears. They are usually in strip malls. And in those cases, you don't own the real estate that your business is operating out of. So they're owning other real estate to help with the retail side of it. So it really is a fascinating way that real estate is used that we don't even really think about it. It's a part of retail bankruptcies. And it's been done before that if judges have not seen a real estate clause in the agreement plan, they will go back to the trustee and say, we need a plan that includes real estate. That's kind of crazy, but it's also very awesome. Fun real estate fact number 2. Did you know that the true business of McDonald's isn't making burgers? Now, I know we all associate burgers with McDonald's, and that's true. The franchises are really about making burgers, great fries, and giving you that ice cold Coke, which is so refreshing on a summer day. It's like so many childhood memories for me right now. But anyway, McDonald's is actually, when we're talking about McDonald's, the McDonald's Corporation is actually more about real estate. Let me explain. Because chances are you've never applied to own and operate a McDonald's franchise, so you might not understand this. So when you go to apply to become a McDonald's franchise, you're given this massive document of an application, and I think it's probably even online now at this point, like everything else is. But this is a huge document. On top of everything it covers in regards to you and your finances and what your business experience is, there's also a section that is dedicated to real estate. And in particular, the real estate place that you have eyed out that you want to operate this McDonald's from. Now, you might think that this application portion is going to be about how old the building is there central air, and things like that. Not really. See, the part that McDonald's really kind of is interested in the real estate is just where it's going to be located, where that real estate is. And no, it's not about making sure it's not too close to another McDonald's. See, the McDonald's Corporation is in the business of owning real estate. They look at the real estate as their security, that if that franchise doesn't work out, if something goes wrong or it's just not profitable, they will have this real estate that they can sell and get a profit off of. So when you enter into a McDonald's franchise agreement, one of the things is that they will buy the land or the building, which means that they'll own it, and you'll basically more or less rent it from them in some form or another. It's not truly exactly what it is, but anyway, they will hold the land and the title to that real estate, and they will use that in the event that that franchise goes under. But also, let's just look reasonably at some point that McDonald's is going to move or something. They're going to be able to sell that land, the McDonald's Corporation. And the franchises that they're approving, they are very, very strategic with those real estate approvals. So they're not just going to pick land based on the fact that you can fit a McDonald's there or it's going to work there. No, they're looking at what the projection of the future is for that area in regards to the value of that land. Because it's all about the future gain with McDonald's. It's all about looking to the future and, okay, is this land going to be land that's going to skyrocket in value? Is it going to increase with value? Is it going to be in demand 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And they're making strategic franchise choices based on that. So if you're a franchisee applying, you might get approved for 9/10 of your application, but they might deny you and say, well, we want you to do a franchise, but we're not approving this location. And it's been done before. And it's likely because they don't see any real long-term potential in the value of that real estate holding there. That's a crazy idea to think. Like, it totally makes you look at McDonald's Corporation a different way. Like, it's an added level of their business genius because they already are geniuses in the sense of look at the consistency that comes across in the McDonald's brand. It's not only just about the food quality being consistent, but it's the interior being consistent. It's how you order is consistent. The menu is consistent. There's so much consistency involved with McDonald's. And there's a genius in that brand for that reason. But now that you know that they own real estate and they approve their franchises based on real estate location, kind of makes you think they're a little bit more genius than we even thought they were. Our last fun real estate fact actually comes from China. We're going to hop all the way over to China and we're going to talk about a real estate development company called Sky Capital City. Well, it's actually not called Sky Capital City, but I didn't want to try and pronounce its Chinese name. But Sky Capital City is a real estate development company that has built at least 3 cities in China. And there's something very unique about these cities. They all have their own cultural vibe and architecture vibe based on cities outside of China. So they have made a miniature Jackson Hole, Wyoming, a miniature Paris, France, a miniature London, England within China. So with Jackson Hole, Wyoming, they have created that in China with a very cowboy ranch aesthetic and architecture to it. Paris, France, in China has a slightly smaller Eiffel Tower, and it has the cafes that you would expect to see in a Paris street. The architecture is exactly like you'd see in the Paris skyline. You go over to London, England, in China, they have a smaller Big Ben, but they also have the telephone booth boxes, the cobble streets, those things that we associate with London. Sky Capital City's intent with these developments was to make them luxury developments. They were supposed to be a high demand development that people would really want to live in. Like, they expected there to be a waiting list to get into these places and for there to always be a waiting list to live there. But in reality, for execution, they didn't end up getting that. There weren't people that were flocking to live in Paris, China, or London, China. It just didn't really meet what China wanted in their real estate. They kind of, I don't know if they did their market research, but they kind of missed the ball a little bit here in regards to what the Chinese want with their places that they live. Now, if we fast forward 6 years, these cities all still exist, but they've actually become more of a middle class development area. And it's mostly people who maybe can't live somewhere else, or they're living here because it's closest to their job. It's even not really a place that people are seeking out to live in. It's just they sort of accidentally end up living in Paris, China, or London, China. But I guess what is sort of the silver lining of these developments for this company is that they've ended up being really strong tourist attractions within China. So they get massive traffic for weddings and parties, anniversary parties, other things like that. Whatever the Chinese equivalent would be of like bachelor and bachelorette parties, it's really common to have it be in a place like that. Like they're tourist attractions for that. So while their original intent really didn't end up coming true, it's not high end real estate. It still actually maybe wasn't that bad of a development because they're renting it out to middle class, but it's also become a very large tourist attraction. That's something that the Chinese people can easily travel to without actually having to travel and go across borders to Paris to experience Paris or going to London to experience it. They can experience it within their own country's borders. So it's actually kind of really cool that way. And even though it didn't turn out like they wanted, I'm sure they're still smiling a little bit because it's very unique. It's gotten a lot of traffic over the years, and it's even gotten some international attention when it was first developed. So I'm sure they're still happy with their decision, even though it didn't quite go as planned.